It's been a little while since I've recorded anything, and that's simply because I've been so busy with work, and I just have been wanting to make this video for so long, and this weekend presented an opportunity to finally, after so long. Naturally, where we live, when we reach the end of the year, we have this little thing called daylight savings, and we turn back the clocks and it starts getting dark around 4:30, 5 p.m. I work in an office building downtown, and I have a view of the skyline, and when it gets dark, my office gets pitch black. It looks like it is absolute nighttime outside when it is 5:30 p.m. and that's very difficult. Recently, I have found myself struggling to maintain my typical routines, my typical discipline, and I think it has so much to do with the change in light. In addition to struggling with my discipline in light of the daylight savings, I also have been fully out of school now for almost 2 years. I am a professional. I do love my career. I find that it is, in a weird sense, academically challenging because I do so much reading. I think of arguments. I do so much learning every day. However, it's not exactly the same as being a student, and I always loved being a student. I don't think that I really appreciated being a student when I was in high school because I naturally did well in my classes and I did not try hard, and that is maybe a bit of a regret that I have about high school. But once I got into college and then my more advanced education, I loved school. I loved having good relationships with my professors. I loved feeling prepared for an exam and going in and taking an exam and just knowing that I killed it. And I loved going into class every day, knowing that I was going to come out knowing more than I went in knowing. I've been very fortunate in my lifetime to have professors that are very passionate about what they teach, and I think that has such a strong effect on you as a student, as far as just magnetizing you toward the subject that they're teaching, or just creating a general excitement around the subject. And I really do miss that aspect about school. I do learn still all the time. I'm interested in learning about lots of different things. I don't have the requirements, I don't have the syllabus, I don't have the expectations, I don't have the impending doom of getting a bad grade weighing on me. So when I go about learning things nowadays, there is really no sense of discipline. I'll get home and be like, okay, I want to watch a YouTube video about the history of tea. That's something I'm really interested in, and it will grip my attention like this. I'll watch one YouTube video and then I won't learn about it again. So long story short, there are two things that I find myself struggling with a little bit right now. One, that is the lack of a structured learning environment where I have goals and expectations to meet. I have certain requirements as far as the materials that I'm going to be consuming to build up my knowledge on a particular subject. And number two is just my general lack of discipline that I feel when the sun goes down. And it makes me feel like I am doing nothing as a person, completely regardless of the fact that I have worked the entire day and I've been productive the entire day. So with that being said, there is this trend going around that I have seen, and people are essentially creating a syllabus for themselves, centered around topics that they want to learn about, and they are essentially creating their own class schedule. And I thought this was such a cool idea. One, to incentivize learning. Two, to provide a little bit of a structured learning around topics that you find yourself interested in, and just a fun trend to hop on that I think has really wonderful benefits in terms of just helping people grow their knowledge as people about whatever type of subject they happen to be interested in. I think that when we come home and we just consume, whether it be social media or TV media or even a book, sometimes our interests can become so siloed that we stop learning about other things. And that's something that I do not want for myself. So anyway, that was a long introduction and a long way of saying that I have begun to create my 2026 spring semester syllabus. And I know it is the end of November right now, but I have essentially another month to finish creating this syllabus, create my expectations, gather all the materials necessary, and begin with my spring semester. And I think that that, in a sense, is really going to help me mentally and in terms of just discipline and self-satisfaction when it comes to the sort of depression that I feel when the sun goes down in the winter months. So it's a way for me to feel productive, feel like I'm working towards something, and also at the same time actually learn some stuff that I've always wanted to learn. So without further ado, let's get into my 2026 spring syllabus. So beginning with my basic methodology, I chose to have 8 different courses because that is how my high school was set up. I think when I went on to college, I had about 4 or 5 classes per semester, and those classes obviously were more intensive than my high school classes. And then when I went on to my further education, I think I had about 4 or 5 classes per semester. But I wanted this to be a little bit more like high school, where my classes were shorter. And that is simply because I don't have the time to actually dedicate to a full college type semester. This is more so supposed to be light and fun and not add any sort of burden onto my life. It is simply supposed to provide a structured way of entertainment and learning, basically. In terms of actually creating my syllabus, I used Canva. I love Canva. I love any excuse to make something structured and cute using Canva. I don't know if I can say how passionate I am about Canva. I even use it for my Instagram posts. I think it is an adult's playground, and it is so wonderful. Canva, if you see this, please sponsor me and give me a free membership to the Canva Premium or Canva Plus or whatever, because if I could access those tools, I would be unstoppable. Anyway, I used Canva for this, and I just used a basic, I searched up like Syllabus or something like that, and it just gave me a very, very basic template. Here is my handy dandy iPad, which I am obsessed with. My boyfriend got me this recently as a gift, and I'm obsessed. This is exactly what I thought it would be for me, and it's exactly what I've been craving in my life for years. I had a void inside, and it was going to be filled with an iPad, and this is doing exactly that. Anyway, this is basically what my 2026 spring semester looks like. Basically, I split this up into 8 different classes based on what my interests are. So I will read them to you. The classes are History, Intro to Fashion, Feminism, Media Proficiency, French Development, Desserts 101, Phys Ed, and Learning Zen. And for each of these classes, I have a main page that basically breaks down my spring semester and what these classes are going to entail. Just a short little summary. So for my history class, this class
is actually called History of the Caucasus because I've recently taken an interest to the history of Armenia. It's just very fascinating to me, and it's an area of the world where I feel like my historical knowledge is very limited. So anyway, that is my history class. My second class, Intro to Fashion, is going to explore the development of today's most popular, profitable, and respected fashion houses from inception of the brand through popular designers and heads of the design department to today's fashion shows. My feminism class is called Feminism and Why It Matters. I feel like recently there has been a push toward American conservatism, whether that is specific to America or not. That is where I live. And one of the ways that I'm sort of seeing this is through my social media and ways that I see this impacting women, from body image and the trends toward getting skinny again. Another thing is the sort of body modifications, including facial modifications, and how it is becoming the normal to have some sort of cosmetic or surgical treatment done to your face or your body. And in addition to that, I'm seeing a push toward women and younger girls not necessarily wanting to work or enter the workforce. And I'm seeing this come from a perspective that I don't think is actually feminist, and I don't think it accounts for historically what women have fought for: to have the right to work, to have the right to own their own bank accounts, to have the right to divorce their spouses. And long story short, I feel like living in this society where obviously it is patriarchal, it is always a very important thing to remind ourselves of what feminism really is. How did we get here? How can we continue to be feminist? Anyway, that's just generally what that class is going to be. My fourth class is called Media Proficiency. This class will explore and emphasize consistency with media outreach and posting, with emphases on development of efficiency in media creation and generation, and building a tailored aesthetic to your media. This is very personal to me and my own social media journey as someone who has recently started making YouTube videos. I really struggle to post consistently. I struggle to actually, take pictures and put together some sort of media. And so this is kind of just learning a little bit about how to be a quote-unquote content creator, and how I think that I can maybe pick up some practices that I learned about and implement them in my own life. My fifth class is called French Development. I do speak French, however, I've not spoken French in a long time. I lived in France in 2019, and I have not had the chance to necessarily be speaking French every day, other than the one time that I have visited since then. So even though I still understand French, I still read French, I still comprehend it, just the lack of practice is something that I don't want to start to chip away at my French skills. So French development is basically just emphasizing maintaining my French speaking, writing, and comprehension skills through consumption of media, including music, news, and film. And so I am just going to pick some movies that I think are must-watches as far as French films, and maybe look into a few French podcasts and pick up a book as well. My sixth class I'm really excited about. It's called Desserts 101. I recently have gotten very into baking as a stress management tool, and I find myself baking at least once a week now. And I have really learned to enjoy cooking in maybe the last 4 years of my life. It's something that is very important to me, understanding how to nourish my body, but also understanding how to look at ingredients and use tried and true cooking and baking methods to turn something into something really, really delicious. Because ultimately you can make something really wonderful and something just fine using the same exact ingredients. And so I just want to learn to be a good cook and a good baker. And so my class, Desserts 101, will teach basic dessert making skills with an emphasis on presentation and technique using limited equipment, because I am limited in my equipment. I still don't have a KitchenAid mixer. I'm manifesting that for 2026. I need a KitchenAid. And it also will involve a brief history of how each dessert made came to be today. So I'm going to learn about desserts generally, and then I'm going to pick a few and really learn about them and make them. My 7th class is Phys Ed, and this class encourages physical movement of the body through weightlifting, walking, Pilates, and yoga. It also encourages retraining the body to sleep on time and consistently to develop a healthy circadian rhythm. So I mean physical education, not just in terms of movement, but actually educating myself as well on physical movement, on nutrition, and on all things the body, because I feel like on social media there are so many things and so many trends that you see with respect to eating, with respect to what not to eat, with respect to how to move your body, how to work out, how to optimize XYZ. And I really just want to learn it for myself to promote health, to promote longevity, to avoid avoidable diseases and consequences down the road, and to be able to teach other people these things as well. My 8th class is called Learning Zen. This class aims to develop mindfulness skills, including silence, presence, and focus of the mind and body. It will include teaching principles of mindfulness from yoga and other Eastern disciplines. So I work a job that at times can be extremely stressful, and sometimes I find myself going to sleep and feeling my heart pounding inside my chest, waking up in the morning, feeling my heart pounding, feeling anxiety as soon as I wake up in the morning, checking my email. The last thing I see before I go to bed at night is checking my work email. The first thing I see when I wake up in the morning is checking my work email. And at times, because the anxiety of my job and the high pressure of it and the pace of it really does ebb and flow depending on where I am on each particular project that I'm working on. And when I feel it start to manifest negatively in terms of anxiety, in terms of poor movement, poor sleeping, poor eating, I really feel so unhealthy, and it makes me feel like this is not the job for me. Now, I really do love my job, and it's a job that I want to continue to work for years to come. And so, one, in order to be able to keep doing what I do for a living, and number two, just as a general principle, as someone who has developed anxiety throughout their life, I had a panic attack in 2022 or 2023 that lasted about a whole week. That was probably my wake-up call that I actually had anxiety. I became medicated. I'm now weaning myself off of that medication years later, and I'm not saying that medication is either good or bad. For me, it actually worked wonders, but what I'm trying to do is develop practices in my everyday life so that I can self-regulate, because that's very important to me. I want to have a healthy heart, a healthy nervous system, and yeah. Then I went through, after creating this list of all of my classes, and I actually broke down for each class what my assignments are going to be. This is, for example, my syllabus for Intro to Fashion. Again, it's not complete, but my assignments are: 1, reading the book Gods and Kings, The Rise and Fall of McQueen and John Galliano. I am very interested in both of them. I've watched documentaries about both of them, and I have seen this book everywhere. I think I can find it on Libby, so I think I'm going to rent it. Another book I'm going to read for this class is a book that was actually gifted to me by my coworker. It's huge. It's this big. And it's called The Woman Who Reads, and it is from Chanel Culture. And this beautiful, sturdy book, it's a lovely coffee table book, but I do intend to read. There are certain parts in here that are really readable, and a lot of it actually is in French. Obviously, Chanel is a French brand, so I intend to read and consume this to kind of kill two birds with one stone. I probably will also consider this enrichment for my French class. I'm also going to read Vogue, not just Vogue US, probably Vogue Japan, Vogue China, Vogue France, Vogue Spain, and all of these, I believe, are available on Libby to rent. I also am going to be listening to the Business of Fashion podcast. I think it's called the BOF. And this kind of talks about fashion today, where we are in terms of marketing, in terms of productivity, in terms of economy, and how businesses are doing, because that's a whole other side to the actual art and production of fashion that is very interesting to me as someone who is interested in business. My feminism class is going to include a few books that I already possess. The first book is going to be this book, also from my coworker. It is called Women and Power. It's a manifesto by Mary Beard, and I don't know what this book is about, but I just know by looking at it that it is a feminist book, so I'm going to read this. The second book I'm going to read is from my mom. It is called The Henna Artist. From what I understand, this is about a woman who escapes an abusive partner or an abusive marriage and then goes on and does other things with her life. Obviously, this book is going to be, whether it is fiction, whether it is nonfiction, it is coming from an Indian perspective, which is new to me. And one thing that's super important to me when thinking about feminism is considering the struggles of women across the globe. I think sometimes feminism, especially in the US, is very white and it is very Western centric and does not account for the perspectives of non-American or non-white women. And I think that is super important to always be keeping in mind, just to keep a rounded mind about what feminism is, what struggles other women go through, and also just multiculturalism and knowledge of other cultures in general. So this is another book I'm going to be reading. The third book I'm going to be reading for this class is from another coworker of mine. She loaned me this. I've been wanting to read this book for a long time. It's called I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. And I don't know how this book is going to make me feel. I am a little scared, but there is a need in me to read this book, just in general, for the perspectives in the book, and also as someone who is always trying to sort of reevaluate the patriarchal society we live in, the heteronormativity that we live in, and my relationships with men in general. Another book I'm going to be reading for this class, I actually already started reading, and I was like, okay, I'm going to consider this as part of my feminist literature. This is called Wild Swans. It is by Zheng Chang, and it's Wild Swans, the Three Daughters of China. From what I understand so far, this is about her grandmother, her mother, and then herself. And it is a fascinating book talking about how these women lived their lives in China. I think it's going to be very interesting in terms of the lives led by, the marriages and relationships of, and the expectations facing women of three different generations. And also, again, this is coming from a Chinese perspective, which is something that I do not personally have, and I do not understand very much of. This book is extremely informative. It is also a history lesson, and it's also a lesson in feminism. I'm also going to either be rewatching, because I love the movie, or reading for the first time Anna Karenina That's obviously coming from a Russian perspective, which is also very different than what I know personally. It is coming from a perspective from over 100 years ago. And while it may be fiction, I think that the story of a woman cheating on her husband and the way that she's treated as opposed to her brother, who does the exact same thing, is a feminist read. I'm also going to be learning about the Latin American feminist movement. I'm particularly inspired by and want to learn more about the Mexican feminist movements of the last maybe 7 years. They've made really a great deal of progress, and their methods and their ideologies are very interesting to me, and I want to learn more about that and about who those people are. Also, just generally speaking, indigenous feminist movements, or just indigenous movements in Latin America led by women, that is going to be incorporated into my assignments as well. For my French development class, I'm going to be rereading Candide by Voltaire. This one is the English version. I was gifted this, I think by an old roommate of mine. I have read this book before in French, and when I first read it, I did not appreciate how funny this book is. This book is absolutely hilarious. It's a mockery of Christianity. It's a mockery of many other things, and I find this book so funny. I think Voltaire is, or was, a funny guy. I'm going to be watching for the first time Amélie, which everybody probably has the movie poster in their head. It's a very well-known film. I just honestly don't even know what it's about. I'm going to watch La Haine, which I also have heard of, and I don't know what it's about, but I've told that I should watch it, so I'm going to do it. And then I'm going to revisit 2 movies that I watched in French class growing up in high school. These movies are Au revoir les enfants and Les choristes. I love both of these movies. Au revoir les enfants, I don't remember everything about it. I do remember it being about a group of young boys during the Holocaust. And Les choristes I've seen multiple times. My friend actually got me for my birthday a few years back a DVD of it, so I have it forever. It is one of my absolute favorite movies. I'm also looking for a French podcast or 2. It doesn't have to be about any particular subject. Honestly, I would love a French podcast where it's kind of just like Emma Chamberlain's podcast, or a podcast of that type where someone is just talking about life. I took classes in French at a French university, and so my academic French and French comprehension is very good. However, I really am looking to develop my colloquial French, and so I think a podcast would be very good for that. So if anyone has any recommendations, I would love them. My Desserts 101 class is going to involve, I'm so excited for this class. One, it's going to involve watching the Great British Baking Show Holiday Edition, because they are always baking things that I had no idea existed. They'll be like, yeah, we're going to make a bubble roll or something like that. And everyone is like, oh yeah, everyone loves these. I'm using my mom's recipe. And I'm like, I've never heard of this in my life. Must just be a British thing. I love this, especially the holiday edition over the winter holidays. Watching this is like a comfort show to me, and it's a way to learn about things that I have never heard of. I'm going to watch The Mind of a Chef Best Desserts. It's a PBS episode that I found. There's also a video that I found. It's like 49 minutes. It's called A Bite of China, and it is a series. It's from a Chinese TV program, and it's a series of Chinese desserts. I love Asian desserts. I love that they are not too sweet. And I love that they incorporate ingredients and flavors that I would not think to incorporate into my own desserts. I find them very delicious. I find them fascinating. There's a book called Sweet by Yotam Ottolenghi, which I found on Libby. I believe it is like a dessert cookbook that I'm going to rent. I'm going to make a few recipes of. And then finally, I'm going to perfect my own personal banana bread recipe, because I make banana bread almost every week. I make it a little differently every time. This particular week I made it without chocolate chips, and it is very bready, and I'm not happy about that. And when I'm spending time and ingredients making something, I want to make sure that I have something that I love that lasts me all week. So that is particularly important to me. My phys ed syllabus is going to include movement. So vinyasa, hot yoga 1 to 2 times a week, Pilates about once a week, strength training about 2 times a week, and walking as much as I can. These are things that generally I already do. However, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. And so having this as a class requirement, I think is going to motivate me to be a little bit more disciplined in those areas. I'm going to watch a documentary. This is also by PBS. It's called How Exercise May Be the Best Medical Intervention Known. My mom is in the medical field, and one of the best medicines that she has always preached her whole life is exercise, exercise, exercise as a form of preventative medicine, both for your body and for your mind. I'm going to listen to a podcast by Stanford Medicine called Choice Impacts Health, just to learn about how certain choices every day can impact my health later on down the road, so I can just be more mindful of certain choices that I either do make or don't make. I'm also looking to find a documentary about veganism or pescatarianism. I don't want to watch a documentary that is preaching veganism. I want to watch a documentary that is talking about veganism objectively, because it's something that I'm considering. I'm leaning more toward pescatarianism, but I don't want to hop on something as a fad. I want to hop on something because I really do truly believe in it. Obviously, the environment is a very big priority to me in terms of my eating, and so I know veganism does have a lot of benefits for the environment. However, at the same time, there are other areas where consumption of vegan foods is not necessarily great for the environment. Whatever. Finally, my Learning Zen class is going to incorporate a few things. One, Vinyasa Yoga is going to be hitting 2 classes at once. I'm going to be getting dual credits. Hot Vinyasa Yoga 1 to 2 times a week. I do this on days that I am feeling stressed, and I find that 1, doing the yoga and the movements, 2, sweating in a hot room, 3, being extremely focused on just one thing for an hour does wonders for my sleep and for my mental health and for my physical health as well. I'm going to try to do guided meditations 2 to 3 times a week and just be in silence and follow the meditation. I have tried doing this a little bit as I'm walking on the treadmill or something. I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but maybe on the way to work in the morning or something like that. I'm going to be watching a movie called The Professor, Tai Chi's Journey West. I've always been interested in Tai Chi ever since I was young, and whether or not I actually begin to practice it or not, I want to watch this movie, first of all. And second of all, I want to just learn a few basic moves of Tai Chi and what it actually means for the body and the mind, because that's something that I don't necessarily understand yet. I'm going to be journaling 1 to 2 times a week. I have a love-hate relationship with journaling. The hate is, it's not a real hate, it's just a lack of discipline. I have 2 journals, okay? This is one journal that I have. This is another journal that I have. This I think also was a gift. I actually have a 3rd journal as well. And the last time I journaled in here was Sunday, September 28th, okay? It was about a month ago. No, 2 months ago. This is the last time I journaled, 2 months ago. I always turn to my journal when things are going poorly. I am not good at keeping up with my journal when things are not going poorly. And one, as a method of just recording my life and its happenings for my own sake of memories. And 2, as a sense of just brain dumping. I'm really trying to be more disciplined with my journaling, even if it's only 1 or 2 times a week. The next thing I'm doing for my Learning Zen class is going to be establishing or working toward establishing as much as I can personal boundaries and restrictions and upholding those restrictions when it comes to screen time, particularly my work screen time. I am so much more productive at work when I am well rested, when I have focused on other things other than work. And I know that it causes me more anxiety to be checking my work email before I go to bed and the first thing that I do when I wake up in the morning. So I'm going to be working toward establishing some restrictions that I can really keep up. The last thing I'm going to be doing for my Learning Zen class is to establish a consistent bedtime routine. I am not good at this, but whenever I do a bedtime routine, I feel and I sleep so well and I wake up feeling so much better. This bedtime routine typically includes a shower and a little bit of self-care after the shower in terms of lotioning my body, oil on my cuticles, massaging my hands and my feet, getting into a clean bed, putting on a specific set of clothing that I only sleep in, making a cup of some sort of sleepy time tea with fennel or peppermint or chamomile or something, and just generally setting the vibe, lighting a candle, making sure it's quiet, picking up a book, doing some sort of activity at night that is my nighttime activity so I can train my brain to feel relaxed when I do this activity and so that it can signal me that it is time for bed. I am, generally speaking, a good sleeper. That is great, but I want that feeling of waking up feeling great in the morning. And most of the time that only happens if I do my full, consistent bedtime routine. And it's something that I've heard is good. I'm really trying to just establish a good circadian rhythm as much as I can for my mental and physical health. Anyway, this has been my 2026 spring semester breakdown of my classes that I've developed for myself that I'm going to be taking. I really encourage you to do this if you feel that it is right for you. You can do as many classes as you want, as little classes as you want, and you are your own professor here. You are your own rule maker, and so in terms of the discipline of how much you want to do, how much you don't want to do, how easy you're going to be on yourself when you don't get your assignments done, it's totally fine. This is just a fun way to learn stuff. I am really looking forward to this exercise. I'm really looking forward to who I'm going to be when I come out of this semester and the skills that I'm going to have, like baking for my friends or making some sort of elaborate dessert for my friends. And in terms of mental and physical health, in terms of historical knowledge and the ability to maybe appreciate things better, I can't wait to start. I still don't necessarily have a start date, but I am planning ahead so that I have a plan and I can hit the ground running when the new year comes around. If you choose to do this, comment below. You can message me. I'll give you any and all of the tips that I have. There are other YouTube videos about this as well that you can watch. Everyone kind of has their own way of doing this. And I appreciate the ability to be able to share it with you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see each other soon.
Thank you.